Your shower is the perfect stage because you're safe, you're alone, sensory input is minimal, and your brain finally has the bandwidth to pull up the file labeled weirdly intense memory at 3% battery. Warm water relaxes your muscles, which tells your prefrontal cortex to lower its guard. Meanwhile, your emotional brain slams the button that says, now it's time to relitigate 14 things nobody else remembers. All right, welcome back to Danielle versus the Void, where I unravel the weird little brain glitches that turn your daily routine into a psychological escape room. Today, we're diving into this steamy, echo-filled chamber where humanity has privately won every argument ever fought. The shower. The tiled throne room of imaginary confrontations. The place where you suddenly develop a degree in courtroom rhetoric and the confidence of someone who has never been place where you suddenly develop a degree in courtroom rhetoric and the confidence of someone who has never been blindsided by a comeback. Let's try this again. Welcome back to Danielle versus the Void, where I unravel the weird little brain glitches that turn your daily routine into a psychological escape room. Today, we're diving into that steamy, echo-filled chamber where humanity has privately won every argument ever fought. The shower. The tiled throne room of imaginary confrontations. The place where you suddenly develop a degree in courtroom rhetoric and the confidence of someone who has never once been blindsided by a comeback. Let's talk about why your brain picks right then to rehash last Tuesday's argument, rehearse next week's argument, or invent a brand new one where you absolutely obliterate Cheryl from accounting. Spoiler, it's not because you love drama. It's because your brain is running on a very outdated survival script. So grab your metaphorical towel because we are about to walk into the neurological backstage of the overthinking Olympics. So your brain has a terrible habit of assuming that every social interaction is a potential bear attack wearing a human costume. This little mental goblin does not distinguish between, oh, I felt awkward in that drive-through interaction, and I am negotiating a peace treaty in front of world leaders. It feels embarrassment, rejection, confusement, disagreement, and even mild annoyance as possible existential threats. Not because it's dramatic, but because your ancestors had exactly two jobs: stay alive and be accepted by the group. And being accepted by the group is how you stayed alive. Being kicked out of the tribe was fatal. Being judged was dangerous. Being ignored signaled that you might be drifting out of the circle of protection. So your brain developed a prevention strategy. It replays the interaction long after so you can look for danger signals. And so when you're rehashing those arguments or those awkward social interactions, you're trying to see where next time you can protect yourself from things going awry, whether it's tone, timing, micro expressions, your own mistakes, the possible interpretations other people have of your mistakes. And then it creates little scenarios to test for vulnerabilities. This is why you get trapped in that cinematic loop. A full psychological director's cut with emotional commentary and optional deleted scenes that never happened. Your shower is the perfect stage because you're safe, you're alone, sensory input is minimal, and your brain finally has the bandwidth to pull up the file labeled weirdly intense memory at 3% battery. Warm water relaxes your muscles, which tells your prefrontal cortex to lower its guard. Meanwhile, your emotional brain slams the button that says, Now it's time to relitigate 14 things nobody else remembers. Congratulations. You are now mentally defending your entire life's choices to the shampoo bottle. There's a reason why the shower version of you is the villain's worst nightmare. You discover sentences with precision of a laser scalpel. Your comebacks are devastating. You transform into the philosopher king of petty vindication. The surge you feel is not confidence, it's adrenaline. You're imagining conflict and your body responds to conflict. Your nervous system fires up the fight side of the survival equation. And your brain basically sent you into a virtual sparring match with someone who's not even present. And you win, obviously, because your imaginary opponent has terrible lines and no counter arguments and the charisma of a wet sock. This is your brain testing for defenses, not preparing you for victory. Well, it feels like victory. It's preparing you to not die of humiliation, which means it's preparing you to not die of humiliation. It runs This is your brain power testing defenses, not preparing you for victory. It's preparing you to not die of humiliation. It runs catastrophe simulations like a frantic stage member trying to make sure this is harder than I thought. It runs catastrophe simulations like a frantic stage manager trying to make sure the show goes on, even if the entire cast catches fire. And this is also why it never feels satisfying. You win the debate, but your brain's real goal is not closure. It's prevention, which means it will never declare the mission complete. Several systems team up to create this soaking wet psychological theater. The default mode network, this switches on when you're not actively focusing on a task. And it loves wandering into existential fields full of what ifs. The limbic system, the emotional region that throws glittery alarm messages at you without reading the fine print. Memory retrieval circuits, and they like what they sound like. They drag old files to the surface like overzealous interns who do not understand that the meeting ended yesterday. So you put those all together and you have this perfect storm, a cognitive cocktail brewed to generate introspection, self-judgment, hypothetical conflict, and the emotional aftermath of conversations that lasted 8 minutes in real life, and now they haunt your plumbing. Your brain's not trying to torment you. It's trying to protect you in the least efficient way imaginable. So how do you stop the shower argument machine? First, you label the phenomenon the moment it starts. I call this my soap opera spiral. The second your brain starts drafting legal documents for imaginary debates, name it. Oh, hey, soap opera spiral. There you are. The moment you recognize the script, you reclaim authorship. Second, redirect the emotional charge. Don't argue back. You don't try to reason with imaginary Cheryl. You gently interrupt the movie by narrating your actions out loud. I'm washing my hair. I'm rinsing my face. I am here in this moment. It sounds absurd, but it does actually yank your brain out of the simulation and put you back into sensory mode. Third, give your brain what it was trying to get in the first place: safety, not the illusion of dominance over a hypothetical opponent. Real safety. Slow breathing, warm water awareness, even placing one hand on your chest and recognizing that embarrassment is not danger, that discomfort is not death, that awkwardness does not equal banishment. Fourth, replace the argument rehearsal with something that actually serves you. Gratitude lists, creative ideas, day planning, emotional cooling. Your brain needs something to chew on. Give it a snack instead of letting it eat the drywall. Every imaginary argument is actually fear rehearsal. It's not a power fantasy. It's not an ego fix. It's a fear rehearsal, a rehearsal of being misunderstood, being hurt, being dismissed, being powerless or unprepared. When you recognize the fear underneath, the argument itself loses its shine. The scene falls apart, the dramatic lighting fades, and your brain becomes less interested in performing the sequel. You don't need to win the argument. You need to comfort the version of yourself who is afraid of living that argument again. That's the part no one tells you. Your shower is not a courtroom. It's not a debate stage. It's not a personal coliseum where you destroy all who have wronged you. It's one of the few places in your life where you're allowed to unclench your armor. And your brain turns it into a battlefield because it finally has the quiet to reveal what it's been holding on to. But you are the one who decides what happens next. If today's dive into your glowing, wet brain gave you a moment of clarity, comfort, or even just the teeniest little laugh, please consider subscribing and joining the Voidlings who are actively trying to become a little less haunted by imaginary conversations and a lot more free in their real ones. This is Danielle versus the Void, your friendly neighborhood nervous system translator. And if your brain tries to start an argument in the shower tonight, just tell it the show has been canceled. No refunds, no sequels, just peace. I'll see you in the next one.